And we're back with more on News Talk Saga 960. So very glad you could join us on this edition of the Marc Petronier Show. Well, what's going on in Iran can quite rightly be described as a revolution. Some say it's a series of demonstrations that were sparked by the murder of a woman over an alleged infraction involving her hijab. And what has happened since then is violence on the streets of Iran, and what has been termed as perhaps a seismic change in the psyche of so many people who've had enough. And we're going to be introducing Salman Seema on the show in a minute. But first, my friend and colleague, Andy Lee from Calgary, is going to talk a little bit about this before we bring in Salman. You've been watching this. This is a stunning series of events, and some of the video coming out of Iran is shocking to say the least. Andy?
Yeah, this is it's really hard to witness. Some of you might have known that I did one of my first stories I covered was Iranians boycotting their elections in Iran, and they were boycotting the presidential election of Ibrahim Raisi, and they wanted journalists to help them cover this. So I joined a huge group chat of Iranians, and we filmed actually empty voting stations, and we bundled it all off and we sent it off to Stephen Harper. This is really near and dear to my heart, a lot of people's hearts. We've got an amazing Iranian community here. Really hard to see what's going on there. So NetBlocks has put up a tweet saying that the internet has been mostly taken down in Iran over these protests over.
Let's bring in Salman Seema, whom you were able to contact, and we really do appreciate that.
Salman's a dear friend of mine, so I took him to Ottawa during the Ottawa protests. He was in my car. We're good friends. But I mean, Salman is really much more in touch with the Iranian community than I'll ever be. He's really a face of this revolution. Has done a lot of advocacy work.
Okay, let's hear from Salman since he's on the screen.
Politicians.
Salman, thank you for coming on. Talk a little bit about what's going on in Iran right now, please.
So, thank you for having me. And unfortunately, last night we had a great protest and I lost half of my voice. Sorry about the quality of my voice. So this is a new wave uprising after the Islamic regime killed Mahsa Amini, beautiful soul, for not wearing proper Islamic hijab. And this is a national-wide uprising. And also it's a unique since 5-6 years ago we have ongoing uprising in Iran, and this is not just protest against mandatory hijab. This is not just protest against the one brutal act after a regime. This is the protest against whole system. People are burning the picture of Khamenei, the leader of Iran. People are burning the picture of Qasem Soleimani, who successfully removed from the earth by President Trump. And as you can see it in the video, you are showing that brave girls, brave women, Iranian women, they are risking their lives in front of tear gas, in front of bullets, and they are burning their scarf as a symbol of protest. And in small cities, there is a fight back from the people. And you know that I always said that after Islamic regime killed over 3,000 innocent protesters in November 2019, people of Iran have the right to do whatever they can against this brutality and against the Islamic regime thugs.
What have you heard? Have you been speaking to people in Iran that are involved in these demonstrations, in this revolution, as you call it?
Yeah, it's a revolution. You can see that people are not afraid of the police. People are not afraid from of tear gas, and they are doing whatever they can. And I can say that people of Iran uh, are more united than ever against the regime under one goal. All of them said that, all of them are saying that we don't want Islamic regime and Islamic regime must go, make Iran great again. And you can see that the butcher of Iran, the person who killed lots of political prisoner in 1988, Ibrahim Raisi, shamelessly deliver a speech in the UN, and it shows that how much these global institute like UN, like World Economic Forum, all of them are corrupt. All of them supports dictator. But I know that when people are united, they can defeat any problem.
I mean, have you heard of bloodshed? Have you heard of people being hauled off to prison? I mean, we're obviously when you're talking about a totalitarian nation like Iran, information is going to be hard to extract. You're going to hear some anecdotes and you're going to see some videos. Are you able to give us any details in terms of what's going on there?
Yes, yes, yes. In Saqqez, a small city in west of Iran, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, they killed another girl just 10 years old. And so far, confirmed number is over 7 people. They sacrificed their life for freedom of Iran. But unfortunately, the level of brutality of the regime is out of imagination. I always said that you cannot compare this regime with any normal regime. They are apartheid, they are racist, they are Islamist, terrorist, jihadists at the same time. And so far, confirmed number are 7 people. But when I see the courageous of the people, when I see that how brave people fight back with those police bastards, those Islamic regime thugs, I can predict that unfortunately we lost more lives.
Andy, do you have any questions for Salman?
Yeah, well, I mean, Salman and I have talked about this at length. There's a lot going on here, and Iranians have been protesting for months. This was a sort of a catalyst for them to up their protests. Of course, what happened to these women, these girls, is deplorable. I just put up myself a video sent to me directly from Iran, so I am in contact with people on the ground in Iran as well as Salman is. Somebody was shot in the eye. So there's really, really horrific things going on. And of course, this is all being played out upon this backdrop of Khamenei and Ibrahim Raisi addressing the UN General Assembly on United States soil. So it's really, really, it's a double slap in the face to these communities because we've actually allowed the butcher of Tehran onto North American soil. He's addressing the United Nations on a part of the Women's Assembly, as Hillier reported. So, really, I mean, it's really, really horrible. And now they've got their internet shut down, so we're getting muted reports back. But like I said, I'm in a chat. Salman's in the same chat, and a few of us are in the same chat to try to get these videos out of Iran to show people what is actually going on.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job.
One
But
is
Salman, what do you want from Canada? We've heard nothing from Justin Trudeau that I have heard. I mean, where is the government's condemnation of what's going on? Where is the government, our governments? I'm talking about the Canadian government's support for the
we
demonstrators.
have some support. And some people are going to come out to a rally. I understand this weekend there's going to be a large rally in Queen's Park.
In Toronto, in Melasman.
Yeah, in Malosman Square. So we are going to have some of our
No,
parliamentarians.
I'm not talking about regular folks. I'm talking about government. I'm talking about the Prime Minister. Have you heard anything from our government in Ottawa, Salman? Please.
Unfortunately, Melanie Joly, she issued a very weak statement. She failed to condemn this brutality, and she said that Mahsa died. No, Mahsa didn't die. Mahsa was killed by this fascist Islamic jihadist regime. Mahsa was killed and probably was tortured. And just he said that she asked Islamic regime to stop harassment against women. This is not harassment. Harassment has a definition. The regime is shooting the bullet in the brain of the innocent women, and shamelessly, Melanie Joly, the foreign affairs minister of Justin Trudeau's regime, she called it harassment. But hopefully, just a few minutes ago, Pierre Poilievre he issued a strong statement, and Melissa Landsman issued a strong statement. And I know that, like last time in November 2019, when the Islamic regime killed over 3,000 people, finally in a Q&A in Parliament, Garnet Genius hold Justin Trudeau's accountable and force Justin Trudeau to condemn this brutality. We never forget that Justin Trudeau bowed to Javad Zarif, former foreign affairs minister of Islamic regime in Iran. Also, unfortunately, this liberal party, they are following the appeasement with the regime, and some good high-profile former MPs like Irving Cutler or like Michael Levitt, they always stood against regime. They always stand with the Iranian people. But these new liberals, they are from another planet. I don't know what should I say that. You see the brutality. You see all the people in all over the world. They stand with Mahsa, but Melanie Joly, even she failed to condemn it. Can you believe that?
Unbelievable. She called it, what did you call it? Harassment?
Yeah, no. She called it that we need more investigation to understand that what happened. Come on.
Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
People are being shot, right? These are the videos that I'm getting here, is that people are being shot. And I'm putting them up judiciously because they're horrific. They're coming right out of Iran. They're horrific. This government won't even, for the victims of PS 752, they won't even designate the IRGC as a terrorist entity. So these people are allowed to come and go freely upon our soil. So we do have the IRGC CUDs, right? The CUDs designated as a terrorist entity on our soil, but we don't have the IRGC proper. So hominies, riots, delegations, they can come and go freely on Canadian soil. And I mean, this is what the victims of PS 752 are really, really, really talking about, is that they want the IRGC designated as a terrorist group, because that is what they did, right? They shot down a plane full of Canadians, right? It's horrific what's happening.
Andy, I'm gonna add one more thing.
Go ahead, Salman.
I'm gonna add one more thing. You mentioned a very great point, and We should never forget that. In June 2018, almost 2 years before IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, shoot intentionally to the civilian airplanes, Canadian Parliament passed a motion to designate IRGC as an FTO. It was before shooting the airplane. Even after that, Melanie Joly, Justin Trudeau, Omar Al Ghabra, all of them empty word, empty word. You know that? I was tortured in the prison as a political prisoner in Iran. My brutal judge, Aziz Alawati, he is famous for issuing execution for political prisoner. He easily, freely, he can come to Canada in West, enjoy, and do whatever he wants. There is no Iranian regime official in Magnitsky sanction list. Canadian Parliament passed Magnitsky Act in October 2017. It was suggested by Honorable James Bezan, but unfortunately, liberals empty talk and no walk.
Okay, you're listening to the Marc Petronas Show on Saga 960. Appreciate you tuning in. We've got Salman Sima. We've got Andy Lee with us. We're talking about the ongoing demonstrations. Some would call them riots, although Salman doesn't want to call them that, or protests.
They're not riots. It's a revolution.
This is a revolution.
It's a
But
revolution.
revolutions can sometimes succeed, but they don't always succeed. What do you think are the prospects for this, Salman? I mean, when you're talking about a really brutal regime like the one we've got in Iran, I mean, where these people are willing to do anything, as you well know, you have personal recollections, horrific recollections of just how brutal this regime is. They're not going to stop. They're going to wipe out as many people as they think they need to in order to crush this thing.
I mean,
What are the prospects
Marc,
for success here?
They shut down the internet.
I understand they've shut down the internet. I'm talking about what are the prospects for success here? What are the prospects for success here?
This is the first time they shut down the internet this brutally since the 1990s. I mean, we've got the butcher of Tehran on U.S. soil addressing the United Nations.
Yeah, we've also got the ongoing demonstration. So I'd like to know, I'd like to ask from Salman.
Screwed up, Marc.
What's that?
This is screwed up, Marc. I mean, we've got the butcher of Tehran who authorized the execution of thousands, if not tens of thousands, of political prisoners during the 1988 death squads. He is on American soil right now.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
United Nations.
Fair enough. He's talking in the United Nations. What about? I want to know what's going on in Iran. Salman, can you deal with that, please?
Yes, I know that it's hard fighting with regime, but I do believe that the Iranian people, my fellow brave Iranian, they have faith for freedom. You know that when people are united, we had a very great chant, historical chant. The people united will never be defeated. I can assure you that we have never been close to overthrow the regime like this. I don't say that the regime gonna fail tomorrow, but it's gonna be soon. It's gonna be soon. The level of courage, the level of sacrifice that people are doing in the street. How many people Islamic regime wants to kill? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. They did it before. They did it before. People who are in the street, they know that when you go to a street, you know that if you are lucky, you're gonna be arrested. If you are not lucky, you're gonna sacrifice your life for freedom. And people in Iran, they have nothing to lose. And I again repeat that there is a reason.
Where's the help, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you had the Arab Spring, where you had toppling of regimes in Egypt, in Libya. You had the Green Revolution in Iran, which you remember. Here was the Iranian people standing up, help us. You know, at the time Obama was president of the United States, they reached out to him. Where are you? Why aren't
Where
you
are
helping
you?
us? He turned his back on the people of Iran.
I do
Well,
remember.
here's
I was at the street. I was at the street, and we chanted that Obama, Obama, Yaba Una Yabama, which means that Obama, you are with us or you are with them. You are with regime. I do remember that, and thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, maybe for you is a history, but for me is a memory. And yeah, I do remember that, and still I say that in a U.S. Constitution there is a reason for Second Amendment. You know that people has the right to defend themselves. Okay, and whatever Iranian do is a reaction. It's a reaction for the brutality, unimaginable brutality. You mentioned to Arab Spring. Let's bring the Egyptian example. Hosni Mubarak was a dictator, and he killed around 83, 85, let's say that over 200 people during several days. Yes, this was brutal. But Islamic regime just in 2019, the regime killed over 3,000 people just in 3 days. They shut internet for 10 days. After 10 days, when I talked with my former cellmates, when I talked with my close friend inside the country, they said that Salman, a still city smell the blood. And unbelievable. I say that just imagine that they killed a 22, 23 years old girl over improper hijab. Can you believe that? This level of brutality, people of Iran know better than anyone how to deal with that.
right. And also you've got Iran now, which is, I guess, prepared to talk to the United States about a nuclear deal. I mean, of all countries on the planet, along with North Korea, that you don't want to have access to nuclear weapons. I mean, you throw that into the mix, and you're into a very terrifying situation. What do you think about that, Andy?
I think the JCPOA is better discussed with a whole panel and what's going on with it. We did see some signing of the Abraham Accords today, and I have a lot of hope in those. But I think that the JCPOA is a whole show in and of itself, and separate from the Iran protests that we are seeing right now. So I don't want to go into too much depth into those.
Right.
There's wonderful people who are covering the JCPOA. Jason Brodsky, Kavish Rose. There's Ali Nevari. Wonderful people who are doing all of this work. But I think that the big thing is right now is that, Iranians are protesting. They're being,
Murdered.
they're
being
being
attacked.
shot. They're being
I
shot.
mean,
No, I put up a video where someone was actually shot.
Yes, they are killing. They are killing the people, and so far, Ibrahim Raisi in the UN, and they don't want increase the level of brutality. But the moment that Ibrahim Raisi come back to Iran, and the moment that they shut the internet, unfortunately, they're gonna repeat the same scenario. But you know that Ayatollah's time's up. It's gonna be very soon and very close that one day we're gonna have this show when I'm in Iran and you are here. I have faith to that day.
are you hopeful of going back one day?
For sure, even if one day I'm alive.
I mean, obviously you can't go back now. I mean, under what circumstances could you see yourself returning after the regime has been dismantled and thrown out? I mean, I guess that would be the only opportunity you'd have really to return safely.
Yes, yes, and always I say to my good friends that fighting for freedom is not a trade. that I fight for a freedom. You should have a face that one day, even I became 100 years old, and for example, tomorrow I'm gonna die. I do believe that in one day I'm gonna come back to my beloved country, and I do believe that one day Iran gonna be a free.
Well, I certainly hope so, Salman. I mean, I take it you have relatives over there. I mean, have you been speaking with them, your relatives over there in Iran?
Yes, my sisters, my family, all of my relatives, my close friends, my former cellmate, all of them are in Iran. And I do remember that when President Trump came to power, we wrote a letter and we encouraged President Trump to hold
Right.
Iran's regime accountable. And the regime treats our family, and they went after my family several times. But you know that we have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose, and if Ayatollahs they see this show, they know Salman Sima. Okay, you're gonna increase the pressure of on my family. I'm gonna fight back.
Andy, do you have any questions or anything further you want to add before we wrap things up? And we don't have your audio.
Andy, we don't have your voice.
Sorry, do you have me now?
Yeah, gotcha. Go ahead.
So I'm curious as to Salman and the Iranian community in general. Do you think when Abraham Raisi and Khomeini come back to Iranian soil, are they going to strike back harder at protesters? And my question is, I guess, will you be able to react to that? Are you prepared?
That's a good question.
Because
So,
they are emboldened
yeah.
because they have just been given the United Nations General Assembly.
Yeah. Let's hear the answer. Go ahead, Salman.
People are emboldened.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Salman.
Regime shamelessly killing the people, and as I mentioned before, if they control the situation, they didn't increase the level of brutality yet. One of the reason that race is in out of country in New York, and all the eyes are watching Iran. The moment that race come back to Iran, they're gonna increase the level of brutality. But these times people know how to deal with that. And yes, we are prepared to fight back. We are prepared. And I promise to myself, to my friends, to my cellmates, and we never back up. You know that we never give up. And you know that many friends know that I am alive for fighting for freedom, and no matter what, how many people they're gonna kill, we're gonna hold them accountable. And one
Does
day they should pay. They should pay for
does
the
the
brutality.
regime have spies in Canada that are keeping an eye on people like you? Talk about that.
Regime
No,
has a
Mark.
regime has an MP in Canada, not just spies. Regime has an MP in Canadian Parliament who lobby for them. Regime has an MP that campaign against his party. Even Majid Johari, the Richmond Hill MP, he deal with Ayatollah. He had a secret meeting in Montreal. He in 2017 he called Rouhani's government elected indirectly. He called the Islamic regime democratic in 2015. In 2016, he campaigned for reopening the Islamic regime embassy in Ottawa, which Stephen Harper and Honorable John Bird, they closed the embassy in September 2012. Yes, regime has lots of spies. They threatened my life. I received lots of death threat on, if not daily basis, on a weekly basis. But you know that we are not afraid. We are not afraid.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Salman and
Just may I add
Andy.
something?
Yeah, you want to wrap it up? Go ahead.
Yeah, just if some friends see this show in later, or they see this show in Ontario, I'm gonna show you the flyers. If
Okay, go ahead. Let's have a
yeah,
look at it. I'm going to
yeah,
take
you're gonna
myself
see
and
that.
Andy off the screen.
Yep.
All right, so we're
Okay.
looking. Yeah.
It's gonna be a huge protest Saturday 24, 6:30 up to 7:30. We're gonna stand against regime in north of Toronto, Millasman Square, and it's gonna be one of the big protests in Toronto against regime.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. Really appreciate this. It's been fascinating stuff.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to see you on the weekend.
All right, you guys are
People
going to have
trying.
a
Yeah.
chance to
Ryan,
protest, yeah,
so
or
yeah,
demonstrate.
so we've done this for a long time now. Salman's incredible at organizing protests, and he's done a fantastic job. And our parliamentarians do come out to these protests. They're very, very large. They're very, very important.
Okay.
So if you can, if
Come
you
out.
have time.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. And thank you, Salman. Really appreciate this. All right, let's take a break. Back with more on News Talk Saga 960 and the Marc Petrona Show after this.